Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about this Pak-Afghan border fencing issue. The foreign minister stated the other day and he acknowledged that there were some complications and they'll be sorted out soon. Before I introduce you to our panelists today, our production team has prepared a report. Let's watch that first and after that I'll introduce you to our panelists and we'll start our talk.
Pakistan, an immediate neighbor of Afghanistan, which shares a border of almost 2670 kilometers with Afghanistan, is extensively engaged in the vigorous and constructive efforts to tread the war-battered country on the pathway to prosperity since the Taliban has seized the power in Afghanistan. However, recently the reported incidents of Taliban soldiers disrupting the erection of a security fence by the Pakistani military along the border between the two countries has raised certain concerns regarding the actual approach of Taliban rulers towards Pakistan in the internationally recognized Durrani line between the two countries. Afghan Defense Ministry spokesman Int'l has also claimed reportedly that Taliban stopped the Pakistan military from erecting an illegal border fence along the eastern province of Nangarhar. Besides, he said that things were normal. Moreover, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi on January 3, 2022 also said that Islamabad has taken up the issue of Pak-Afghan border fencing with the Taliban government in Kabul and the issue would be resolved diplomatically. He added that the miscreants are raising this issue unnecessarily. Pakistan, though, is consistently engaged at almost all the diplomatic levels to make Afghanistan a constructive political and economic entity in the region as well as in the international arena. Still, Pakistan never turned a blind eye towards its vital and core national security interests. And this fact has to be conveyed diplomatically and assertively to the Taliban rulers of Afghanistan.
And now to talk about it, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio on my right is Dr. Manzoor Afridi Saab. He's an expert on international relations and in particular on Afghanistan. Thank you so much, Afridi Saab, for your presence. And we also have with us Brigadier retired Saeed Nazir Saab, who's a senior analyst. So thank you so much for your presence also. And on Skype, we have with us Dr. Aqab Malik, who is an expert on foreign affairs and international relations. Thank you very much, Aqab, for your time as well. Now, starting off from you, Dr. Manzoor Afridi, first of all, this fencing issue was perhaps very important in order to curb the smuggling issue or perhaps the terrorist infiltration that was taking place. And we were able to almost complete it 90% plus. Now, the issue has been again picked up by the Afghan Taliban. And they said that there is no need to have this fence, whereas the foreign minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, he said that he had a word and acknowledged that on Monday that there were some complications. Let's start off from the some complication issue, sir. I mean, if it was sorted out and we almost completed the border fencing, sir, and I'm not talking about a small area, you're talking about some huge part between Pakistan and Afghanistan. That is a porous border, as we all know. So I think that was a great initiative taken by the government of Pakistan in particular. So I think hats off to the Pakistan Army who ended up completing this huge task. Your take?
Well, the fencing between Pakistan and Afghanistan has been started in summer 2017. So it's almost 4.5 years, for the last 4.5, that this fencing has been stretched between the two countries. And this border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, it is almost 26 or 2700 kilometer long. It is porous, mostly it is mountainous, so very difficult to have monitoring and to control this border. So we have seen for the last 20 years since the war on terror started that half this border has been used by various forces legally and mostly illegally. And you also stated about the drug smuggling or smuggling of weapons or some other things and infiltrations, the illegal migration by refugees and so many other factors. So of course it has created some problems between the two countries. We have to look at into the history. I mean that it's not the story of 1 year or even not the story of big 20 years, but since 1947 or even before that, since 1893, when this border was signed between the Sir Henry Mortimer Durrani and the Amir Abdul Rehman of Afghanistan. And since that the political issue was made between the two countries, and later on we have seen that in the initial days of Pakistan, what kind of relationship was there between the two countries, and later on Somani and King Zahir Shah period, and then Sardar Dawood, and after the socialist regimes of Nur Muhammad Tarakeh, Hafizullah Amin, Babur Karmal, and Dr. Najibullah. After that, even in Mujahideen government and the Taliban government, and now especially in the 2 tenures of Hamid Karzai, and also the 2 or 1.5, I would say, tenures of Dr. Ashraf Ghani, that we have, I mean, Pakistan and Afghanistan, they have so many skirmishes or clashes on this border. First, let's recognize that the monitoring of this border is very necessary for both countries, because Afghanistan is situated in such a place which is a center between Central Asia and South Asia.
That's correct.
So this is the era of regional integration. So many projects have been launched now to be facilitated to get benefit of all these projects. Let's to focus on this border. No doubt there are some issues. For example, some people, they live on the Pakistan side, and some of the same tribe on the Afghanistan side of Momand or Wazir, Masood, or some other tribes. So let's to have some facilitation for them, but to control these things, I mean the illegal things which create problems and issues a longer term for both countries, to have check and balance on them, and a strict monitoring of this border. Even United States of America and even NATO forces, they always, stressed have to control this border. So in this new situation where Afghan Taliban, they are in government, now they are government entity. In this regard, they have to focus on this border, because there are so many issues, humanitarian crisis there,
Absolutely.
their
Absolutely.
economy, it is at very much risk. So to have recognition from international community, to have normal relations, and even further to say friendly relations with neighboring countries of Afghanistan, and to have this trade route between Pakistan and Afghanistan, either through Torkham or Chaman or other opening points of the border, to have smooth trade. Let's to strengthen more security on this border. I think that's in the interest of both countries, both Pakistan and Afghanistan. So in this time of need, where the Afghan government that is in so much search of recognition internationally, so let's to have stability on the border and to control it, because problems if create on either side of the two countries, it would disturb the peace and stability of both countries.
Absolutely, totally agree with that. Now, sir, the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Shah Mahmood Qureshi Sahab, has in fact blamed certain miscreants, and he in fact mentioned that they are blowing it out of proportion, and there were certain videos which were released, and where the Taliban, they were in fact they were breaking it and they were pulling apart the fence. Now, sir, this is about 2,600 kilometers of fence that we are talking about. And again, Shah Sahab mentioned that he has a word with the Afghan authorities also. So when he says certain miscreants are blowing this issue out of proportion, let's explain that. Let's throw light on this aspect. Who are those miscreants?
Once we see to the history, as Dr. Manzoor has explained, need not to go into that. There is no government that may be of a communist, that may be of the Emirates, or that may be of Karzai or Ashraf Ghani, or even Bacha Saqa will come, but they will not openly, because it is a political murder for them to recognize this border. Somehow or the other, the misperception regarding this border is on the different line, they call it. And they say that one perception that it was having a in time by 100 years, which completed 1893, and then second was, well, it was forced on them, and third is that, well, both Pakhtuns are on both sides and we are one, and so there should be no border. So these
Is it
misperceptions
more
are
of a
there.
cultural issue, sir?
No, it is basically a political issue for survival. And somehow or the other, the countries which are hostile to Pakistan or the agencies, they are playing it also up. And third thing is that along this border, once America and NATO was there, it was not in their control. Their it was not there. And so goes to the Taliban, which is almost about 4 or 5 months. Well, in this time, you cannot expect that they will be having complete control on that. So as far as the question of miscreant is concerned, well, there are certain maybe Rouge element that may be doing it. Second thing is that since the TTP, Ahrar, Daesh and other groups, Al-Qaeda, etc., they are jailed. So far they were jailed in one. So now probably they may be also creating such sort of problem along the border, because basically in Nangarhar and Kunad and all this area, those people are there. But at the same time, to which Dr. Saab has pointed out, there was a clause of easement rights for the people of tribal area, both sides. Masouds are there, and so goes to the Wazir, so goes to the Mehman, Shinwaris and all. They are having their lands there as well as on that side. And both have got the rights to cultivate them. Families and so many divided things. So this fence is too close to the border, and that has restricted that particular movement of the people-to-people contact. One. Second thing, the same thing would have been possible, which probably I proposed it at many forums, that instead of that, if a dual carriageway has been drawn along the border, so on both sides would have been the fence, and regular or conventional routes would have been open for proper documentation, and the unconventional routes would have been stopped. It would have served for the mobile patrolling, picketing, as well as the trade route and people connectivity, and so many benefits would have been accrued. But somehow or the other, it culminated.
Now, so this particular fence or the boundary or the demarcation perhaps, is it acceptable to the general public living out there, sir?
Actually, that what is the misperception, that it is not acceptable to them, and that due to that cloud which has been created. Otherwise, this particular issue is not on any international forum. Every Afghan government wants, because their consulate is in Peshawar, and first of all they should close that consulate, which is in the occupied or in an area which belongs to them. And third thing is that it is properly demarcated with the commissions which were set, and then in 1921 again it was again ratified again by the Afghan government and the British government. And after that, after 47, it is an international recognized border. There is no issue about that. But there are elements, number one, that is India, of course, which has fueled it. And this propaganda has been on and on and on. And certain elements are there in Pakistan as well, who are also of the same viewpoint.
Certain political parties.
And fourth thing is that unless this particular thing is removed, so I don't think that we should be, it is an irritant, not a big issue.
All right, it would be sorted out.
And more so, it should be kept on the low key in the diplomatic level, mostly silent diplomacy. And third thing is that it should not be blown out of proportion, as the foreign minister has said, because that is not to our interest. And fourth thing, we should be connected to Afghanistan on many fronts. That may be people to people, that may be trade, that may be the education, that may be health, that may be the bridge which Afghanistan can create up to the Central Asia, and so goes once they are integrated in the CPEC. So all these things will automatically then fade out. So probably a soft approach will be better than adopting a hard approach.
But this issue needs to be resolved.
Yeah,
in the current times, because when you talk about 1893, sir, or 1921 perhaps, things have changed over a period of time. Either they should have done it much before, or if they have done it let's say during the last 4 or 5 years, it has to be acceptable to both the people living in that particular area. Because if uncle is living on the other side and the nephew is living on this side, so this is exactly the situation.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Dr. Aqab Malik about this issue. Dr. Saab, your take on this very important issue, I would say, neglected or perhaps I think it was on the back burner, but now the foreign minister also spoke about it. And interestingly, what we have seen in certain videos that the Taliban fighters, they have been, they're not accepting this particular fence or the boundary that has been erected by the Pakistan army. And perhaps, if not now, at some stage, this could escalate. Your take?
Well, I believe that the situation has been going on for a long time. It's not new. It's not a misperception. I think there are real grievances on both sides regarding the border. You have to look at the history. I'm not going to go into history. I think it's long-winded, really. But this situation has been on the boil between Afghanistan and Pakistan since the 1960s and before. So it's not about a matter of one side taking over the other. Pakistan has unilaterally put the border fence up. There was no negotiations with another side. They just thought that the Taliban would agree because Pakistan's been very helpful to them over many years. The issue is that the Taliban have never agreed, even in the previous time, the 1990s, nor has any Afghan government. So I think when it comes down to it, really there needs to be political negotiations to settle the matter for once and for all. There's not much choice in that. There is a grievance of the Afghans on this border, and it has historical implications. And they would say that it's the same that is the case for Taiwan and China, or Kashmir, or Palestine. This is the situation that they put it in. It is not been on the horizon because Afghanistan's been in turmoil for 43 years. So as a result, nobody's really thought about it much. Now that Afghanistan's going to hopefully face the forthcoming future with relative peace and harmony, let's hope so, without external interference, that they may have to discuss this in a formal manner with Pakistan and vice versa. Both parties need to really rectify the situation and resolve it for once and for all. I think the grievances are not a misperception. I disagree with that completely. There are real grievances on the Afghan side and Pakistan side about what is actually happening here. It's been imposed because Pakistan is much more powerful at this moment in time to Afghanistan, which was not the case many centuries ago, when Pakistan wasn't about, actually. But this situation will arise again and again. In fact, looking back, one of the precursors and reasons as to why the Afghan conflict came about in the first place was the Pashtunistan issue and this particular border. So I think we shouldn't really take it lightly. I think it's very important that we give it due regard and the importance that it deserves. And Qureshi, he's just a politician. Let me tell you this, he may be the foreign minister at this moment in time, but he will change. Other people will come up with a different idea. And politicians invariably lie about everything they want to lie about just to get out of a situation. So I don't really agree with him at all.
All right. Now,
about the situation that is a small issue. It is a large issue that needs to be resolved, and it will take time to resolve this. Let's put it where it really is.
Well, that should be the way forward, definitely. But coming to you, Afridi Sahab, now another very important area, because Dr. Aqab talked about the foreign minister as a politician. It's a political statement. The issue was there, is there, and perhaps will remain there as well, unless until it is properly sorted out. He said that this issue has been blown out of proportion, one. Then he says Taliban spokesperson in Afghanistan's acting information minister Zabihullah Mujahid's statement seems to suggest otherwise. What he said, Zabihullah Mujahid said there was no need for border fencing by Pakistan as the issue of the Durrani line has not been resolved. So this is the official statement of the Taliban regime at the moment, sir. What is that supposed to mean?
Actually, now the Taliban, who are the rulers of Kabul now, they also need the support of people. No doubt that this issue, it has been rooted in the Afghan society, and it is very much laden with the emotions of the common masses. So historically speaking, if we see through the history for the last 127, 8 years, So it is there, no doubt, and it has been picked by various governments at Kabul, or various political parties or forces there. So now where the Taliban, they are in need to search friends or to at least to have sympathy of the people, of the masses. So they have, you know, to have this issue more to be highlighted in this regard. Because we can't deny the fact that no, it's nowhere the issue is, or it's even not an issue. No, it is there. So we have to talk with them, and as I told earlier, that it's in the interest of both governments that we have to recognize. And of course, we have to move forward, I mean both countries, from just only the political statements to the real and concrete solution of this problem. There is a solution for every issue, and as far as the people, they are concerned on both sides, where they have families or they have lands, no doubt that there can be some regular, you know, meeting points or crossing points for them that they can visit either side, but to have control on this border, so it is in the interest of both countries. That they can not only, you know, to normalize their relations, because this border, it is one of the irritating elements between the two countries. So if it is solved, of course, there are so many other avenues where we can cooperate with one another. Afghanistan can join the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. We can also extend our more cooperation and more, you know, trade routes to be established with Central Asian republics. Pakistan is already permanent member. Afghanistan is observer state in SCO. Afghanistan is also there a member in SARC. So on the one side, if there is India where SARC is not working, on the other side, of course, there is Afghanistan where we both in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So by this, you know, by this framework, both countries, they have no way but just sit together and they have to talk. And one important thing that Afghanistan, that is a tribal society, and from where this border that is going through, there's also the tribal, mostly the tribal land on the Pakistan side. And even in Balochistan, if we see, so there are also the tribal Pashtuns. So they have very much strong connections. And this issue can be solved on both fronts, and let's to have parallel, to have efforts on both fronts. I mean, one, the government level, that especially Pashtuns, that they can move forward, and second, on the people level, on the elders level, and before in the socialist regime in Afghanistan, and even before that in the King Zahir Shah period, many times both the elders of the you know, tribal chiefs on both sides of Pakistan and Afghanistan, they have talked on so many issues. So then we can reach to a durable solution.
Now, one more important factor, Dr. Saab, and that is about the killing of the Maliks and the tribal chiefs in that particular part by the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan in particular, sir. Now, what sort of a vacuum that has created, sir, when you talk about dialogue or the trust deficit issue, or perhaps, you know, how to cooperate and move forward?
Yeah, that's very important and pertinent issue. Yes, in the war on terror, what we have seen in the last 20 years, so many tribal chiefs or Maliks, they have been killed. And of course, a hierarchy that was disturbed, where a tribal chief was considered very much instrumental in this regard, to have a connection between the masses and the political agent. I mean, what we call now the deputy commissioner of an agency now. That's the tribal district.
I think political agent was one of the most powerful
very much powerful, very much. So, but now I think there is important era now that the ex-FATA, now it's merged with Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. now. So again, the tribal chief authority, you know, that is hereditary. So first Amen, then his son, then his son. So there are tribal chiefs again there. And even beyond the political level, on the cultural terms, if we talk, on the tribal terms, so that is not only hundreds, but I would say even 1,000 years old, that kind of the bond, it unites the whole tribe. So I think it's very much possible. So many organizations or the non-governmental organizations, forums on both sides, especially here in Pakistan, they are working for the track to diplomacy, to have more connection on the people level, to have more people-to-people contact. We know that our Afghan brethren, they are in so much need of health and education and trade, business activity, and so many others. So for all these things, of course, the security of border, that's very much necessary. And I would again say that not only on the government level, but on the citizen level, on the masses level, on the tribal chiefs level, this issue can be solved, and very much, I think, with durable solution, we can move forward.
All right. Now, brings up another important factor. Again, I would refer to Zabihullah Mujahid when he said that people living on both sides of the border, they have connections with each other, and fencing was creating a disconnect between them. Now, we all know why the government of Pakistan decided to erect this fence. Infiltration was the first issue, because we never wanted that people from the other side, or miscreants perhaps, or the terrorists should be coming into Pakistan. We have already flushed them out, so we need a very secure border. You think, sir, if this issue is not sorted out and similar activities continue to happen, when you'll see them removing the fence, what sort of effect is it going to have between the very important relationship of the Taliban and the government of Pakistan? And secondly, sir, in particular, when you talk about the people living out there.
Well, of course, as far as the people living there, they are from almost hundreds and hundreds of years. And after the creation of Pakistan, again, the name people are there. And this border was for 70 years guarded by those people. There was not a checkpost. There was no fence. There was nothing as such. And it was guarded, and it was guarded properly.
Absolutely.
Second thing is that once those people were responsible in doing it, now after the fence, why this issue has come up? It means fence is an irritant. If it is an irritant, and this irritant is blown beyond proportion, suppose the local...
The issue has been raised from their side, not from this side.
That's what I say. That if the tribes on that side are agitated by some, suppose, in miscreants, some hostile intelligence agencies, or the big game again is being played in this area, will the environment will not be suiting for that, and that will be detrimental to the relationship, rather the very existence of both the country in peace and prosperity? That will be. So we should not give a chance to such sort of elements which can blow it out of proportion and make it an issue. Second thing is, this border, as far as the relations are concerned, it is not that much pronounced in the relations. But on the social media and on the propaganda side, which is again by some interested elements or unwanted elements, and more so by some mindset which has been created, there is no other significance of that. But we should not, the Taliban will be playing to the gallery, especially their people are believing as such, and more so were the previous governments. So I suppose at local level, that is the commander or governor level, or more so at the low-key diplomatic level, it should be resolved. It should not be given a sort of a status or elevated to an extent that it becomes a real thorn in the relations. One. Second thing is that soft borders is nowadays, of course, that is the buzzword. So soft border with trade, it gets strengthened. People to people contact, it gets strengthened. Then the relationship and the dependability. Afghanistan is, of course, a landlocked country. and it is dependent on Pakistan on many things. So why not to take advantage of that and rather strengthen the soft power than the hard power? Then I must draw your attention towards the our national security policy. There also economics, trade, people-to-people connectivity. Afghanistan is a bridge, and reach to the Central Asia, resource utilization, exploitation. So all these things are coming through that way. And if that is addressed, I suppose people will be dependent on each other. They will not disturb the peace equation. One, they will not disturb the border issue. And fourth thing is that if people see that there is prosperity coming out of this connectivity, of course, which is necessary for the CPEC to be connected to the Central Asia. And of course, China is having a stake in there. So why not to have a regional approach? And more so, I have said it in many programs as well, that we have got an arch rival, rather an enemy on the eastern side. So we cannot go there. The only avenue open to us is the western side. And there is Afghanistan and Iran. So through Afghanistan, we can reach the Central Asia. Why we are hyphenating ourselves Pak India? Why not Pak-Afghan? Why not Pak Central Asia? So that will be the approach, that our vision and our strengths will be there. That will be bonded. And strength from both the sides. So goes to the Afghan. There are so many opportunities. Top P is there. CASA 1000 is there. Then there is another that vision that they are having a road link and railway link up to Peshawar from Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and so goes to the Chaman border as well. So how much connectivity will be coming? So I suppose such sort of irritants, it should be addressed silently, and I suppose use of hard power or giving it more boost, that will not be appropriate. As far as the Dr. Saab has raised the issue of perception, once something is settled internationally and a recognized border by all the nations, and there is no documentary proof that it is not a border. There were proper commissions which were established on both the sides. For 3 years they were demarcating it, and they know it. So what could be else the perception when somebody says, well, it is not a border? That is the misperception. If you got a tangible...
I'll just raise another very important point, and I'll take that point to Dr. Aqab, Malik. Dr. Saab, recently what we witnessed was that the Indians there changed their map. And I'm talking about the northwestern side of their map, in which they included Azad Kashmir, and they also included Gilgit-Baltistan. And whenever you Google the map of India, sir, the new map is going to be shown on the screen. Number one. And over a period of time, it seems that the Indians, as if it's not that they claim everything interestingly. But what I'm saying is that maybe 20 years down the line, the next generation of the Indians would start believing in that. Whereas when it comes to the border demarcation, Pakistan and Afghanistan is concerned, I mean, it has been a very clear-cut line, sir. But now, since the tribal areas, they've been merged with the KP government, sir, A, what sort of a difference will it make? And secondly, sir, do you also believe that there are certain entities other than the Taliban, perhaps the word miscreants was used for them, and if they exist, who are they? Dr. Saab?
I'll answer one by one. Yes, India has been doing this with the maps for quite a while. It's nothing new. It's a form of psychological warfare to get their own population or international community thinking that Kashmir or Gilgit-Baltistan is part of India. This is what they've claimed for many times. Our alternative is that we can make a map with Jammu Kashmir on our side. So it's a cat and mouse game, really. I think everybody recognizes what the situation is, and it's something to have a perception of and induce certain perception within their country to keep the conflict alive in essence, but also to maintain the essence of their need to want it back. So I think it goes for both sides, really. As far as Afghanistan is concerned, when it comes to miscreants, for example, yes, you're right. I believe that Taliban Pakistan have an inherent interest to gain and regain touch with their community within Pakistan. I mean, this is where they came from, and the tribal areas going into Pakhtunkhwa, I think, was one of the best things that could happen to that region, where the tribal limitations, the imposition of the crimes regulations, for example, were rescinded and it became part of the province, is the best thing that could happen to the tribal areas to allow it to develop as a province. I think there's no doubt about that. That was a success for the country, in fact. This would undermine the Taliban and their claims in different tribal areas. Now, they've been killing different Maliks. Yes, they are the types of people who were, and the tribal leaders who were against Taliban. I know some of these personally who have been shot at and seriously injured. I talked to them many times before, afterwards. And the reasons why, because they didn't support these terrorist groups at all. And they sided with the country. Now, the thing is that they're obviously targets because they're leadership positions within the tribal community. And as a result, to reduce the effect of the tribal community to impose their own values on it, they're going to try to reduce the leadership and disorganize the people there. Given that the tribal areas have gone into Pakhtunkhwa, that tribal leadership has not got the same significance as it had before, because now part of the provincial government and doesn't have the separate entity and power status that it had before. So this goes against the interest, in essence, of Taliban and other parties, which are no doubt being funded by foreign elements.
Now, Dr. Saab, another important area, I mean, do you believe that obviously smuggling, that's an issue in that part? And a lot of smugglers, I mean, obviously they don't want the fence to be there, because obviously it's a porous border and there is no fence. I mean, it's easy for them to, you know, move from one place to another. And secondly, another important factor is that other than the smugglers, it is also believed that there are certain other elements. Perhaps they really want both the forces on both sides of the border to be provoked and end up getting into some sort of a physical clash.
Okay, so you're talking about smuggling. One of the biggest issues that we have is that the main outlet for heroin trade and opium and hashish, you know, all these narcotics is through Pakistan and Iran. Obviously, it has to come through the border. That would really impact the drug smugglers and the drug lords there in Afghanistan, which would impact their local economies. So it's not in their interest. They have direct linkages with the terrorists, without a doubt, because that's the nexus between crime and terrorism. They work together with each other. The other aspect is the Afghan transit trade treaty, for example, that we have. A lot of the goods do go into Afghanistan. Many are smuggled back into Pakistan without having been taxed. These are the issues that we've got to face because they're being sold on a cheaper rate in Pakistan without having faced taxes from Pakistan. And as a result, it goes against the interest of the government as well. So we have to look at these many different aspects of this. And it's an ongoing situation. The border fence will reduce such smuggling, but I don't think it will completely cut it out. I think there are many groups that are quite capable and have many resources that can cut through the fences. And the border is very long. It can't be patrolled every single point by the soldiers, unfortunately. Again, it's a cat and mouse game between the smugglers, the terrorists, and the Pakistan Armed Forces, for example, trying to maintain certain amount of security within Pakistan. Afghanistan has been taken over by the Taliban, but in no way whatsoever is it secure as a country yet. They have a long way to go before they secure that country. And those small vacuums that occur along the border areas or other parts of the country will arise again and again whilst they clash with the government in Afghanistan. And they will exploit these areas to their own advantages and also to the detriment of Pakistan.
All right.
I don't
Afridi
see
sir,
that this is going to be a short-driven issue. It's going to take time for it to
take
foment and reduce over time, and policies will change as a result because the relationships between the two countries may change drastically depending on a situation that may occur at any point in time. We have to
Very
be
well
wary
said, sir.
about that.
All right. Now, Afridi sir, couple of important points. One is also about the human trafficking, which we haven't talked about so far, and secondly is about, the second one is again another very important aspect, kidnapping for ransom, sir. I mean, when there is a fence, you can't move from this part to that part is considered to be a safe haven for all these people. Historically, you go back 100 years or you talk about the recent history, sir, this has been the case. Do you think that, I would say, means of income has also been stopped because of the fencing, sir?
Both these issues are really important. As we know that this border is porous, it is going through mountainous terrain. So no doubt that it's very difficult to have monitoring on this border. So the question of human trafficking, that is there. The question of ransom money, the kidnapping, that is there. So of course it can also minimize and even almost it can finish these practices as well. So those forces, for example, who are involved in these activities, either that is the human trafficking or the kidnapping, so those forces can be vanished through the practice. And of course, for have more chicken billions, so there can be discontinuity in these practices. And this thing, there's also on the agenda of the United Nations, also on the agenda of the international community, especially the major powers that have, because now human trafficking, that's not only here, mostly that is in Europe, we know through Iran and through Turkey, through Greece, and people go there to Germany, Austria, Italy, and other European countries, and they want to earn their, livelihood over there. So that is also there between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And important thing that is the kidnapping issue. So in this, war on terror period, the disturbance we have seen, and on both sides in Pakistan
Smuggling
and Afghanistan.
of vehicles, for that matter, was another.
So many other
You talk
things.
about the fuel smuggling coming in
Yes.
from Iran.
Yes, that is there.
Yeah.
That is even still there's
Yeah.
going on at the Khattak border. So in this war on terror period, the so much disturbance we have seen on both sides of Pakistan
Alright.
and Afghanistan, and kidnapping of so many people. Even all of us, we are witnessed, that medical doctors and some important personalities, those who are
So many
kidnapped.
professors from various universities,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So this is there, and of course it can be minimized to a larger extent.
Sir, last closing comment from you.
Yeah, number one, let me a bit clarify it that before 9/11, the whole FATA crime rate was less than a police station in the settled area.
Yes.
So crime was not by the tribes. So 9/11 was a different ball game. Second thing, as far as the kidnapping or these smuggling and all these things, so bring reforms, provide the opportunity of earnest living to the people, so that they should not indulge in that. Unless that is done, so you cannot stop the water from going to one place unless you
An alternative should
you
be
have to
there.
channelize it. And that channelize it, that first of all enable them, mainstream them, give them reforms,
Yes.
build them, and then of course if it is there, it could be stopped. Otherwise, if you leave them on one side, the fencing and no livelihood, so what they will be doing? Naturally, the crimes comes or the smuggling comes, that is the only alternative. So we are to see both sides of the coin.
There has to be some
That-
sort of an equilibrium, and
Yeah.
I think this issue is going to be resolved soon, as the government also recently stated that it is a matter of, it's not a grave issue.
But it
as
is,
such.
I suppose, a misnomer or rather a bad conception that you are putting all this smuggling, men trafficking and all these sort of
All
crimes
right. All
and heap it on Fatah. That is a wrong.
Yes, yes.
So you wanted to add something?
My last
quick one.
point, in continuation of Brigadier Saab's statement, there are, you know, FATA, the ex-FATA, now tribal areas, they are so much, you know, rich in mineral resources. If factories are set up over there and people, they were given
So
jobs.
we also
and
learned that the Americans would end up having some sort of economic zones out there, and but nothing happened. That is what
No, 14
promises are
It-
always.
No,
It can bring
$14
economic
trillion
revolution.
has gone only to the pockets.
Imagine.
Not
Imagine, sir. Anyway, Brigadier Saab, thank you so much for your time, sir. Afridi Saab, thank you so much for your time as well. And Aqab Malik, was a pleasure having you in the show, sir. Thank you so much for your time as well. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you inshallah tomorrow at 8:05. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.